Thank you very much and welcome to you, colleagues, members of the media. Thank you for coming through for day 2 of this ANC NEC Lekgotla, our annual pilgrimage, where we break down our policies and programs into action plans. And we are privileged to be joined by our Deputy President, and who is shepherding the fixing of local government as mandated by the President and as mandated by our National Executive Committee led by our officials. The Comrade Deputy President is accompanied by Comrade most known to you these days. I suppose it has a lot to do with COPTA and other ANC assignments, Comrade Dr. Dixon Masemola. I will at this point invite the Deputy President to reflect on the work that was done in the Commission and some of the things that we may anticipate in the report that is going to plenary immediately after this break is concluded. Over to you, Comrade DP.
Thank you very much, Mahlengi. Very good afternoon to all of you. As Comrade Mahlengi said, our focus is on fixing local government. You will recall from the January 8th statement where the President emphasized this matter, that this is a year of decisive action to fix local government and ensure a viable economy. So with Comrade Dixon, we have been focusing on that area of work. You all know that most of our challenges, and we're trying to narrow down as much as we can in local government, and one is the issue of water. In many communities, they have this challenge. We have realized that in the main, it's not that we don't have water in the country or the dams, but it's an issue of reticulation. That even in provinces where you do have the dams, there are some villages or areas where they are not adequately receiving water. So we are going to focus and zoom in on that. So that's the first one. Secondly, is the issue of roads. Internal roads in many of our communities, particularly in rural areas, needs to be attended to. With all these heavy rains, you've got potholes and so on. So we are busy attending to that. You will recall those who were with us in the Northwest, that as we were crisscrossing that province, one of the biggest challenges was the internal roads. So that's the second issue that we are dealing with in the Commission. We've noticed that when it comes to energy, we've done well with respect to load shedding, more than a year now without load shedding, but we are attending to issues of load reduction. The problem of load reduction is because in some areas, people are connecting illegally. And once they connect illegally, they overload the transformers, and therefore the transformers explode, and ESCOM obviously have a problem in continuing to fix those transformers. So we want to have a strategy where we can minimize or do away with these illegal connections, because you can't ask ESCOM to keep putting new transformers and they are blown out all the time. So that's the issue of load shedding, load reduction. But with load shedding, we think things are going to be stable for some time to come, because the energy availability factor is hovering around 70%, which is good. Of course, one of the biggest challenges in our communities is the issue of employment. There are high levels of unemployment in our communities. So we are looking at creating employment opportunities through expanded public works programs, community works programs, where we will employ thousands of people to work on the ground. As we fix the roads, we will be employing them. When we do infrastructure, whether it's fixing schools, bridges, we'll be employing these people. We have agreed that we are going to accelerate the program of building bridges. Many of you might recall the program called Uwelisizwe Bridges, which is led by Public Works. We're going to ramp up that because climate change is with us. We're having a lot of rain and there's flooding that is taking place. You have realized what's happening in Limpopo, Mpumalanga. Also, it happened in KZN as well as Eastern Cape. So we're going to ramp up the program of building more bridges in these areas so that we avoid the problem where people are swept by water. So that's one thing that we are going to do almost immediately. We have agreed that it's important that the government, whilst the government has a way of monitoring what is happening throughout the country, the ANC itself should have the ability to do so. So the Secretary General will have a war room that will be looking at all these things. And obviously, he needs to connect with all provinces, districts, and metros. So we'll replicate this process throughout the country so that we have people who are given this responsibility full-time to ensure that they monitor implementation, there's ongoing monitoring and evaluation, and then interventions. So that if there's a problem of sewer in a particular area, it mustn't take long for that to be fixed. So the war room is going to help us with timeous implementation and timeous intervention where there are challenges. We have decided that this will start as soon as possible in the year. Obviously, we will be busy after this with preparation for SONA. Once we're done with SONA, we will then be rolling out our action plan that will have clear time frames and monitoring and evaluation processes to ensure that we are able to intervene. The success of this is going to depend on how we work with communities. So we will be deploying our leadership throughout the provinces to work with comrades there and also in the regions and district areas. Lastly, we have also decided that it's important that our councillors are fit for purpose, so they must be trained properly, and we must ensure that we continue to deploy the most capable in all the municipalities, in all those areas, and make sure that they work well with the managers and the officials in the municipality. There must be no micromanagement, there must be no conflict, there must be a proper interface between the political leadership and those who are handling the administration. Important things that they must focus on priorities identified and make sure that they continue to monitor this implementation so that we can fix as soon as we realize that there are challenges. So local government is a priority for us, as we said, for this year, so that we can improve the quality of life of people in those areas. That's really our main objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade DP. I'll take hands, and I also just want to indicate, colleagues, that this is not a press conference. I recall what happened yesterday. It became an hour-long affair. So please, let's keep our questions short, not 4 questions at a time. Let's try and keep it to the decorum of a doorstep, which is just to apprise you about what is being currently under discussion, which is what the DP just did. I'm going to take hands, and we will take one question, and then it gets responded to in the spirit of a doorstep. Yeah. And DP, with your permission, I will also share with Comrade Masemola. Yeah. All right. Newsroom?
Thank you very much, DP. DP, there's just 2 things that I wanted your clarity on. The first is, your were leading a process around coalitions previously, around legislative reform and coalitions. That process has fell to the wayside, and we see constant diagnosis from the Auditor General, from every single body looking at local government, saying fragile coalitions is a source of instability and misgovernance in municipalities. So is there anything that can be done from now till the local government elections? The second is, in your interventions here, the President made reference to the white paper on local government, which highlighted the financial unviability of most municipalities. So all of this is subject to that reality. And the second is the debt owed to ESCOM. So in all of this, you're dealing with an unworkable system. And so aren't you setting yourself up for failure to say, we're going to fix local government, when the framework tells you already that it's broken?
Well, let me put it this way, and Comrade Dixon will deal with the issue of financial viability. Let me just deal with the issue of coalitions. You are quite right. Right from the beginning, the person who has been leading the discussions around coalitions, and we've done well in the earlier periods. We are going to revive that process because we have realized, particularly where you have coalition government, that's where we tend to have weaknesses in administrations of our municipalities, because there's a competing interests. You know, political parties will always compete. So where there's coalition is even worse. So we are going to ensure that we continue to engage all parties around how a coalition must work. It's really about the interests of the communities. Where you have a coalition, you must say, what must we achieve here to serve people better? The rest is secondary. So we're going to try and pull them together all the time to make sure that this is going to work. So that's why for us, prioritizing local government, it's not a matter of choice, it's a must. Local government is the closest sphere of government to our people. So whether you talk of water, energy, infrastructure, everything you can talk of, if you don't do well in local government, there's no way you're going to succeed, because that's where people are. So we need to make sure that where people are, that's where we intervene. And that's really the purpose of all this intervention we are doing now, because that's where the people are. We have heard them. They have raised these issues with us. We can't go back to them again and ask them, what are your problems? We must go there and say, that's how we are fixing the problem. And this is how long it will take, because we now have a clear time frame. We have the resources. We are coordinating. And there's a clear objective of the end game. Where are we going to end up to get things better and a better life for everybody? It must happen in local government. Comrade Dixon?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, colleagues, and as well as the Deputy President, His Excellency. Firstly, it is very important to appreciate the fact that the work that the Deputy President did on the management of coalition politics around municipalities led to a very important legislative process. Because at this point in time where we are, through COCTA, we have been able to produce a coalitions bill, which is one of the urgent legislation that must be finalized this year, in particular in preparations for the next round of municipal administration, so that as he continues to lead the program on fixing municipalities, at that time we should have produced through Parliament a law that will basically manage coalition politics in the country. And therefore the process that His Excellency led has not fell by the wayside. It is basically on course to the extent that there is law that has been finalized. Secondly, the Commission discussed very seriously matters around the white paper policy review process. In fact, it received a very elaborate presentation with, at the end, it has what we call a process map, what is expected between now and the end of March, because that process must be finalized and be adopted by Cabinet by the end of March. So the ANC has decided that in the next coming 4 weeks, in all provinces of the country, in all the regions, sub-regions, including branches, there is going to be a wave of a political engagement to refine, to input, and make sure that the final product is actually reflective of the views broadly of society, including structures of the ANC. So that process is very much on course, and to the extent that it also has got aspects on the financial viability of municipalities. Working together with National Treasury, there is a task team that has been put in place, and that task team is mandated to begin to look at the actual review of the funding model of local government. And I suppose the explanations, the articulation, including how the situation has been characterized, have been very detailed and as well as elaborate as to the constraints, the need and the difficulties that municipalities are experiencing that actually demands a review of the funding model. So that process, working together through Department of Treasury and ourselves and the ANC, will be working on the finalization of that process once the analysis of the task team will have been produced as a report that begins to work on alternative policy options on how do we strengthen funding model of municipalities. The last point on the energy and municipal ESCOM debt, which obviously amounts to quite a number of millions and millions of rands. Working together with the Department of Dr. Ramokgopa, we have put in place what is called a distribution agency agreement as a model to pursue, so that those municipalities which have got problems of owing ESCOM and ESCOM demanding payments, there is a reworked system on how best working together we should handle that area of constraint. But in the main, it would be to make sure that residents, communities continue to receive sustainable energy supply for their own household use from time to time going forward. And that's what we're working on, to bring better stabilization on how to handle that intergovernmental debt that exists between municipalities and ESCOM as a state-owned entity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take a question on this side. I'm just going to crisscross like that. And I still ask for questions to be crisp and not more than 2 questions, colleagues, particularly in the first round. Not more than 2 questions. ENCA?
Thank you, Deputy President. Muloko Mloto from ENCA. I mean, these issues that you are outlining at the local government level are not new. Is this an admission? And I'm asking in the context of you announcing that the SG of the ANC will have a monitoring team. We know that there's a monitoring and evaluation department which you introduced as the ANC government. Is it an admission that it has failed to hold accountable those responsible for these municipalities? But what have been the actual impediments that since the advent of local government in 1996, that you have not been able to meet these issues? Lastly, you are raising these interventions in an election year. How would you respond to people who say, well, it's an effort to save the ANC's face again?
Not at all. You know, a lot is happening in local government. As I said earlier, that's where people are. They live there. That's where you have new informal settlements. Then we have more people moving into areas. So the challenges have been growing. If you look at all our municipalities and the populations around those municipalities, you'll find that most of them have grown twofold, threefold. More people have moved in, And once people move in, they demand water, they use the roads, they need jobs. So the challenge is always going to be at local government level. And it's important that we must focus there. The monitoring and evaluation, the war room, as you say, it has been there. We are strengthening it because of more challenges that we are dealing with, but also to make sure that we replicate these processes in the provinces, in the districts, and in the metros, so that the Secretary General at Lutulia is able to link timelessly with all our structures wherever they are, whether it's in the Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, KZN, Gauteng, Free State. He must be able to, at the press of the button, to get the information, send people out there. We are doing this not necessarily because there's going to be an election this year. We are doing it because we must improve the quality of life of people on the ground. We're going to continue to do it beyond the elections. We will be there on the ground. We'll make sure that things are fixed, things work properly. So we're going to continue. So beyond the elections, if the elections are end of this year, next year you'll find us still on the ground, because some of the interventions are long-term. We're not going to sort out everything this year. So we will be there until things can be better. They may not be 100% better because there are a lot of challenges, but people must feel that we are there with them. We are working on these challenges, and we're going to improve. So the monitoring and evaluation with the war room is going to work much better, but it has to reach out down to a village. We need to know what's happening in the villages. We need to send out people there. A lot of our leaders have to spend time reconnecting with communities to be there. That's what we did when we were in the Northwest during January 8th. This is the modus operandi that we're going to pursue throughout the country. Everywhere, in all provinces, you'll find our leaders there. Thank you.
I think that the response of the DP pretty much summed up the essence of all your questions. Yes?
Yeah. I was just wondering how in municipalities where you don't govern.
Okay, that's a new question. It's a follow-up question.
Yes.
We know this. It will come back. SABC followed by Power.
I think it should be silent.
No, you can start ladies first. Go ahead.
That's appreciated.
Okay, this is my thing. Can I please pose two questions linked to the DP, and then one to to Dr. Dixon as someone of the Deputy Minister, they can choose which one to answer first. Dr. Dixon, there's a question here from our regions, especially in the Eastern Cape, since you both touched on the issue of electricity. They say, could we get someone to react on the electricity or water outages in Gqeberha due to vandalism? 66-year-old age facilities in the city are hardest hit. Do you know anything about it, and could you please respond to that?
And then in the meantime, could you pass on the others
so
to the
DP,
DP?
but Bob Dixon is the one that actually spoke more about it. The task team, the review on the funding model of local governments. I know Salga has been spearheading this process. But can you just please go into detail about it? In your commissions, were options put on the table that national government would actually come in and assist local government? Because remember, Salga has been calling for national government to actually give majority of its budget to local government. And then on coalitions, DP, and legislation around coalitions, did those who attended your commission approve or support the notion that parties who probably get 2% or more must actually go into government and then form coalition governments, or just, those nitty-gritty issues?
We actually didn't talk about percentages, because coalitions are really about negotiations and who is prepared to work with who. So if you put strict percentages, you might close out people who want to work with you. So we've left it open, and it will be subject of our discussions as we go on, depending on a particular area, how parties engage. The important thing is to get the institutions to work. So parties that agree to work together, if once they agree, they then agree they'll work together, irrespective of who got what percentage. So we left it open.
Well, thank you very much once more for those two questions. I think the first one with regard to Becha Metropolitan Municipality of Nelson Mandela. We, through the systems in the department, through the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Municipal Support and as well as Service Delivery, I think that specific matter will be followed too, so that that household or fellow South African can be assisted. But most importantly for us is to note the fact that we have invoked Section 154 on municipal support and intervention, and we have placed on site in Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality a team of experts in finances, in engineering, as a support mechanism to make sure that the problems around infrastructure, systems, finances, delivery models, and all those other areas we've identified that requires support and intervention. That team of South Africans in their respective areas of expertise are on site to support that metropolitan municipality. So we're quite certain that working together with the province and the city itself going forward, those matters are going to be receiving our attention, as we have already started to pay that detailed attention to those issues. On the second point around possible finance reforms on local government, including what SALGA is basically proposing, I think it is a matter of a constitutional injunction that the three spheres of government are expected to, based on the principle of equity, share the nationally collected revenue, and to the extent that the formula determines that, it becomes very important. Now, 30 years into our democracy, the president made a very clear instruction that we must work on a system that will ensure equitable distribution of the nationally collected revenue. And of course, SALGA, as a representative body of municipalities, they have already done a mathematical exercise. And that exercise suggests that we need to be able to look at the possibility, depending on the outcomes of the process itself, that we increase probably the allocation from 9% to something below 20%. At least there'll be some substantial increase from a percentage point of view with regard to that. But that is a function of the team I've referred to earlier on, that there is a task team that has been appointed to work on that. Well, there are figures that SALGA has put forward, which I might not necessarily talk about them now because they are not necessarily concrete. They are still subject to a lot of work being done. But what is a matter of a principle is the need to increase the allocation from 9% to something very meaningful, substantial, if it goes up to 15, 18, or 20%, depending on the outcomes of that process. That necessarily will respond to the instruction by the president to ensure a better review of our funding model on the municipalities, and therefore prepare them to become recipients of better funding, so that development needs, development facilitation, infrastructure provision could therefore at that point in time, once those systems are finalized, our municipalities will get a better funding arrangement. I think that's what I can say for now at the level of a principle, without presupposing those suggestions by SALGA, because they are not substantive at this point. They are suggestions which do not necessarily have to be worried about if we don't mention them now.
Thank you very much. Shazi?
Thank you, DP. It's Nkosinathi Shazi from Power FM News. Just two questions, DP. Yesterday, when the president delivered his keynote address, he singled out the city of Johannesburg saying that ANC deployees need to work hard in winning each Johannesburg. Now we have over 250 municipalities like South Africa. Has the ANC identified any key municipalities that you guys have to win, or are you guys gunning to take all of them if that is a realistic chance? And then my second question, the ANC has reiterated that 2026 is the year for the local government elections and e-renewal and not talks of successions. But I just thought I'd utilize this opportunity. You're in prime position for the ANC presidency. You've been very calm, cool and collected just with regards to your potential campaign. Earlier this month, we saw Patrice Motsepe allegedly beginning his campaign with the printing of T-shirts. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula posted a very nice reggae song on Twitter yakhe, but he said that he's not throwing his name in the hat just yet. Will you be contesting the ANC presidency, and when will your campaign start? Thank you very much.
I am going to be accused of gagging the media or gagging the president. I will ask the DP to give a terse reaction because I think you want to change the subject of this briefing. But I will ask the DP to a very terse one.
I think we should all agree that at some point, as the Secretary General said, he said at some point, probably after the local government elections, the issue of debates, discussion about succession will be made open. So for now, we are focusing on local government. Let's fix local government. That's our preoccupation. Lezi ezinye into sizozibona. We will attend to those issues at the right time. For now, our people want better services where they live, and that's where you're going to find us.
Thank you, DP.
Oh, Joburg, any municipalities?
Oh, no, obviously Joburg is a big metro, so the president should be concerned if there are challenges there. But our preoccupation now is that we must fix all municipalities, including in a small rural village. We must attend to all of them. When we campaign for elections, which we will do later in the year, our approach as the ANC will be to win all municipalities. That's how we campaign. We're going to put all efforts to win all municipalities because we believe that we have a better plan to fix the challenges of this country. So we will leave nobody behind. We will go there, but obviously we can only win if people believe that indeed we are addressing the challenges that they are having, and we have solutions, and we are working with them. That's what we're going to do.
I sincerely apologize, Ms. Machine. That question on whether you have worked out the modalities in cases where you don't have in those municipalities. I know the Constitution does give you, as the executive, from government's point of view, to intervene. But from the task team of the ANC's point of view, in Cape Town, for instance, where you don't govern, how is that going to unfold?
Well, even where we don't govern, we do have councillors. So it's important that our councillors, wherever they are, they must push for the priorities of the ANC. Where we don't govern, we may be ignored, but it won't be for the lack of trying. So we're going to say to our councillors, even in the city of Cape Town, they are trying their best to raise priorities, focus on this. A governing party at that particular time might decide, no, the focus is something different, but we're going to push. Because at the end of the day, we will push for ideas that they can't ignore, because these ideas are to help our people on the ground.
Thank you very much, Comrade DP,
Thank
Comrade
you.
Masemula.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, colleagues in the media. We will advise on the next doorstep.